Hi everyone, I'm Allie, and I hope that this tutorial finds you merry and bright. I'm just going to show you a quick way to brick stitch this fun Christmas tree form that doubles as a gift giver and an earring holder for you to use and give this holiday for an ornament as well as to gift a couple pairs of earrings to people. So to get started with this tutorial, you are going to be using one of the acrylic tree forms that we have created. And the acrylic tree form has a bunch of holes in it, and these are perfect for hanging down earrings to give as a gift. It's a multifunctional gift that you can give the ornament. If you don't want to use it as an earring holder, you can certainly glue in some chatons or do some more brick stitch. But I wanted to show you how to basically decorate the exterior of any form or anything that you're using. We're going to be using a wire guard along the top so that way we can hang it from our tree and you can gift it to somebody on Christmas morning. So the first thing we have is our acrylic tree forms, and they are white. In my sample here, I did green thread. I'm going to switch to white thread so you don't see it as much. I have a couple beads sitting here, some 8 OC beads and 11 OC beads, and then we're going to use a wire guard along the top. I have my thread with a size 10 needle, and I'm going to pick somewhere along my tree to start. I think one of the easiest places is to start along a straight area. So I'm going to take my thread here, and I am going to tie it onto the form. And I'm using size 8 dragon thread here. And I'm going to just tie it onto the bottom of that form 2 times. That gets the thread connected, which is already on the needle. I have about 5 feet. And I'm going to lay out some of my seed beads to get going. Once you have your beads lined out, I'm going to line the exterior of the tree with some green red beads, and we'll do some silver for that little trim. I'll do some brown beads for the trunk along the bottom, just in traditional Christmas colors. You could also use a variety of 11 OC beads in different colors to get that vintage Christmas tree light look. So we've tied on the thread, and I have on a series of 3 beads. Really just think of it as your 2 8/0s that are separated out by 1 11/0. I'm going to take my needle and thread, and I'm going to sew from the bottom up through the tree form. Notice how I hold my hands for this brick stitch start along the exterior, and I hold them there so that the seed beads don't fall to the back of the project. From here, I kind of push them up towards where they need to go in place, and I'm going to sew back through bead number 2 toward the 11 OC bead, or back towards bead number 1. What this is going to do is to get that seed bead to sit up straight along the form. So with brick stitch, we want our beads sitting, our 8 OC beads sitting, so that the holes line up perpendicular to where our form is. Each time we pick up a new 8 OC bead, we're going to decorate the outside, hiding the thread and making it look like just a little light is on our tree by adding an 11/0. After the 11/0, add an 8/0, tuck underneath the form again. Hold that bead kind of towards the front. And this gets faster as your thread gets less and less. And then you're going to sew back through that bead that you just added towards that 11 OC bead, which will cause that bead and the thread to sit straight up and that 11/0 just decorating between. I'm going to continue doing this the whole way along this flat surface, adding the 11 and the 8, sewing from the back of the form towards the front of the form. Get that tail out of there. And then we're going to round the corners, and I'm going to show you how you round the corners. You can round the corners in the same form of brick stitch, and just showing kind of that nice organic look of sewing and sewing and sewing. There's things that you get stuck watching on Facebook, and you're like, I don't know why I'm watching this. There was repetitive motions going up through the brick stitch and up through that 11. And see how that 11/0, or towards that 11, see how that 11/0 doesn't get another piece of thread through it. It just hangs out along the edge there, and that way you don't see the extra thread. If you wanted to, like I said, a silver lined mix of 11 OC beads would look really pretty, like Christmas lights. Going on here, we're getting towards the corner. So what happens when the form changes directions? How do you make up for it along that corner? So if it is a rounded corner, it becomes much easier. I'm going to pretend that the corner is not even there, and we're just going to go right along the corner and add in our extra beads. When we get here to the top, and there's that extra little jagged edge in, that's where I'll show you how we're going to make up for and make it look consistent along the form. So keep going here when you get to the corner, adding your 11 and your seed bead. And right now we don't need to worry about where our thread and needle are going because the form sits along the outside. If the beads fall through to the front of the form, just push them back towards, or to the back of the form, just push them through to the front. And then sew back up through. See how it naturally is turning that corner anyway? Continue on. And then when we get up towards this loop here and we don't have that single form to go on, I'll show you how we're going to make up and share that loop with multiple threads going through our brick stitch. When you get to a section that doesn't have that nice thin outer edge, you have to think, how am I connecting to the form and getting those beads to connect there? You can look and see here that you can go in the whole way if you want to a loop, but that gets a lot of thread. If you look here instead, you can see that there's more threads that are going right close and we're kind of bridging that gap. If you want to, you could take your thread the whole way in, but again, you're going to see it. So instead, see how I've already added one there, and hard to see a little bit on that white, but see those two thread lines right there, one going straight and one kind of on an angle. Next one, same deal. We're going to put our bead on. We're going to skip over to the next simple section of our form. And the tail there is just going to be a little bit longer. Push your bead against the last beads. Take your thread and needle back through that 8-0. And then don't pull tightly because you don't want that to have a huge gap between it. Grab another 11, grab another 8, right into that corner as well again. Making sure when it comes to brick stitch that your tension is all the same. Going back through that bead again, right there. And then again, just kind of pushing it down on the form so that way the beads line up. And what you can do is push that down just a tiny little bit more as we get that last bead in here. And then I'm going to show you how to do that tight little corner. So our last bead goes in here. And because we didn't pull too tight around that bigger edge there, we have the opportunity to get that bead right in there and give a little tight pull. So see how it pushes the bead close by and you don't even see really the gap in that section. So here you can see I'm right there at the end and I don't know what to do. Same thing, you're rounding that quarter. Use an 11, use an 8, go into that corner spot and just go around the corner. Don't overthink it. That bead's going to sit kind of on the side. Yep, don't worry about it. Put that bead on, continue with the next one, going along that line and having those beads sit. One of the best things about brick stitch is its consistency on how it looks and how you continue with the look going up. Don't ever try to push more beads close together, or what's going to happen is your beads are going to start to sit over top of one another and you're not going to get that nice line of seed beads. Go ahead up to the top of the tree and I'll show you what we're going to do right along the star. When you get to the top of the form here, it's a little bit trickier because it's smaller spaces, but it's basically the same thing. What I am going to do, since it is a smaller space, is use my 11 OC beads rather than just using my 8 OC beads. If you want to, you can switch colors, do 8 O's as well. But I'm going to be gluing a chaton into the top of my tree here and into some of those extra holes that I'm not going to be using. So I don't want to have to rely on that for my little tree hanger. So I'm going to use a wire guard and we're going to show you how to do that. On the side here, just like we've been doing, instead of using an 11-0, or sorry, an 8-0 and an 11-0, we're going to use two 11-0s and then we're going to sew up into the tree itself, or sorry, the star itself. Bring that down again, sew back through bead number 2 towards that other seed bead there, just like we've been doing, and that just gets us a smaller bead here at the top. 2 11s through the tree again, and go back through bead number 2 toward bead number 1. So see how it just kind of has a fuller look around the tree? 2 beads go on, up to the next side of the tree, or next side of the star rather. Lay those on, up through bead number 2, toward bead number 1. And that'll sit kind of on that point there. So you're continuing to doing the exact same stitch. And again, don't overthink it. Don't try to squish too many beads in there. Bring it along the side. And then as we get to the top, we're going to add in that little wire guard. And we're going to make sure that we reinforce that wire guard, since this is how it's going to be hanging on your tree. 2 beads go on, up to the top here, laying those along. And there you have that little section along the tree. So here at the top, I'm going to put on 1 seed bead. Then I'm going to put on my wire guard. The wire guard, if you're not familiar with it, or if you don't have it, you can use a soldered jump ring or a closed jump ring. We're going to go up through the side of the wire guard there, around that little U-shaped channel, go down through the other side of the wire guard, let that fall down next to your project, add in 1 more and 2 more 11-0 seed beads, and then go to the other side of the star. Seed bead number 1 is going to lay there. Seed bead number 2, we treat just like normal, going through it and continuing on with our brick stitch. Again, we want to reinforce this. So we're going to go backwards this time and go back through seed bead number 1, up through our wire guard, down through the wire guard. Oops. Not getting stuck on the tree. And then once we go down through here, down through that bead number 1, oops, we're going to link around and reverse the thread once more. So we're going to go through bead number 1 here and bead number 2 that we're coming off of. Link around the form one more time, through it either front to back to front, back through those beads. Shrink my tail up here, sorry if I'm giving you motion sickness. Flipping it over, going back up through those 2 11s, back through your wire guard one more time, back around and down the other side. That way, this is connected really well to the tree. And when you go in and add your ornament holder, it is going to sit really nicely. Go through that last bead there. And this is great for the top of really any earring that you want to brick stitch. Through the form itself, back up through that bead, and then back onto your brick stitch. You can see this really wants to gap and loop around the tree as I'm working with it. So I'm going to go back through there and continue on with that brick stitch as I go along the tree. As we come down, we're going to do the exact same thing, switching when we get to the end of the star to my 8/0s, coming down to the bottom. And as we get to the bottom then, I'm going to show you that we're going to switch colors, just like I did on this one, for our trunk of our bead. And then we're going to bedazzle this one here with some of our little chatons. When I got to the bottom of the trunk here, I switched out for a brown to look like the bottom of the tree. And as we finish that off, we get back to the beginning of the thread. I'm going to add in my last brown bead here, going through just the same way, adding the 11 and then the brown bead. So the exact same way. And when I come out the top of the brown bead, here's how we're going to finish off this portion of the piece. Add an 11-0. So down through the green bead, bead number 1. This is how you'll add and end any of your brick stitch if you go and have any forms that you're going through. So around the form, and then so back up through that bead number 1. So basically, remember, we started brick stitch with 2 beads at a time. That gets bead number 1 to sit exactly the way that you want it to do. Go now over through your first seed bead there, your 11-0 that sits along the top. Go down through bead number 2, and guess what? Your thread ends are both there. Go ahead and take those 2 thread ends. I'm going to take my thread and needle, just going through and bringing them to the same side, not sewing through anything, just literally poking it through the beads, bringing it to the same side, flipping it over, and then literally tying the 2 thread ends off. Now, when I get into my branches here, there's a lot of different ways that you can do. You can keep the form like this and add post earrings, or add a pair of earrings to every little section, kind of up to you. Down here at the bottom, I'm going to take my thread and my needle ends, burn them off, and then take my thread zap or my thread burner, which is the most amazing gift and thing to use, right there. And now this tree form, if you wanted to, could be completed. Instead, what we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to hang some earrings, and I'm only going to be hanging 2 pairs of earrings as my gift in the middle of this one. So what I'm going to do is bedazzle this one here with some crystals. So you're going to glue your crystals in. If you want to, you can still brick stitch. And the crystals I'm using, you can use different size. These are the crystal chatons in Siam in the SS24. I want them to stick up a little bit. If you want to, you can also, like I said, have green go along the top and the bottom. But basically, for all the holes here, I'm going to glue in. E6000 will work. Loctite will work. I'm going to grab some E6000, make sure I'm on a surface that is not going to stick to my bead on it board. And I'm going to glue in my little chatons all over from the top to the bottom, skipping this middle row to add my earrings there. So just showing here that glue in process, I use my little reamer to kind of help me, or my beading awl to help me position that glue. You can see the glue along the holes here of that E6000. I'm just going to take my chaton, press it down into the back of that hole. If you want to, you can use the crystal pickup tool, get that on there, and push it down into those holes as well. It'll take a little bit of time to set, but that's going to complete your Christmas tree. You can certainly, like I said, brick stitch the rest of it if you want to, but we're going to get ready to add some earrings in, and that finishes up our little Christmas tree ornament. After you complete your little earring tree here, you can make a couple little simple earrings to hang down. You can see it, that it goes there. And then if you want to, watch some wire working videos to make your own little Christmas tree hanger to hang it on the tree. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully you learned a thing about brick stitch or two. Cute little gift idea to hang those earrings there. If you're not going to and you're just going to do it as an ornament, just put some extra chatons right in that middle of a hole, but it's a great way to give 2 gifts at once. Remember, if you need any of the materials, go ahead and look below the video or on the side if you're on our site, and don't forget to comment with any changes or any questions or any feedback that you have. We love to have that interactive Potomac Beads community. Thanks so much for watching, and happy holidays.